nothing left for me to hate, so I can lay me down, my brothers, on the ground. I bled today until Coyote comes to raise me up and carries me away to go. Leave me, run like you never did. No, believe me, run like you never run before.
Good evening, hello, and welcome to the Scottish Rugby Podcast. I know this is probably like hearing a ghost from the past. You may be double checking that you've got the right episode, but no, it is in fact myself, John Anderson, similar to what every TV provider will be doing just now. They'll be wheeling out all their old over the hill, and quite possibly over the top presenters just in time for the Six Nations, which is what we're going to be looking at tonight. We're coming to you from the Sports Social platform, which has been with us now. We've been working with them for about a year and a half now, it's been tremendous. And yeah, long may that continue. I'll do some intros, and then we'll get all the other stuff that I'm trying to remember, because it's been a while since I've been in this hot seat. Tonight, joining me for our Six Nations preview. These guys are not over the hill. Well, one of them might be. We'll come to him first. It is none other than Jonny McGinty. Jonny, how the hell are you, sir?
I'm good. I'll have you know that I very nearly went to training this week. So.
Oh, no way! You've been saying that.
Considered not that over the hill. Thank you very much.
You've been saying that for 6 years.
I was closer this week than I have been for a while.
Oh, we applaud that. And do you know what I said to someone the other day? The best ability is availability. It sticks with me every time. And I said that to someone in work today, and they weren't that impressed. But anyway, I
don't know if that's work friendly.
We try it. I believe you learn work-related skills from rugby. That's what they tell me anyway. Yeah. And also joining us, we've got yourself, Mark. You're continuing to persevere with this absolute lunacy that is the Scottish Rugby Podcast.
Indeed. Loving every minute.
Loving every minute.
Most minutes.
Well, some minutes. This is, as we were just saying, actually, just before we came on air, this is our first pod together. So you've been with the podcast for a long time, and now you've discovered the joys of being on it. Means you can't listen to it anymore.
Yeah, it's a wee bit mad. I was just saying to John when we came on. I mean, I was listening to the pod. I remember when Jonny and Craig came in as new voices, because I'd been listening to the pod for a long while before that. But it's just suddenly there's a big hour-long or more hole in my pod listening schedules, because listening to yourself talk in retrospect is just not very good at all.
Do you not just find yourself considering all the brilliant things you've said, and being like Jonny and being so confident about it?
Yeah, mostly just trying not to think about other stuff I spew. Sorry, remembering we're not on Patreon yet.
That's it, not on Patreon yet, but brilliant segue, because yes, we do have a Patreon section, as most of our regular listeners will know. But if you're new to the podcast, we do have a Patreon section. Head over to patreon.com/Scottish Rugby Pod, and you will find us. You'll be able to support the production of this, and you will get some super secret and exclusive content over there as well, where we kind of
Scottish
do our
Rugby
hands
Podcast, Anderson.
podcast. It's not pod. Thank you, Johnny. Yes, I'm clearly rusty, Johnny. Thank you. You've got it up on the thing anyway, so people will be able to see it. So that's fantastic. But yeah, head on over there and support us. And yeah, thanks, Johnny. Right, cracking on with the content. Yeah, clearly this is going to be one of these nights. I'm clearly trying to play myself out of this for next year. This is obviously the intent here. I am clearly doing a Liam Williams, and I'm turning up as a ghost from the past, and then I'm going to absolutely wreck the joint and get sent home in disgrace. Speaking of getting sent home in disgrace, let's talk a wee bit about our Scotland versus Italy squad, shall we, Johnny?
Let's keep in mind what we can say here and what we need to say for later,
Correct.
right?
Yes, absolutely. I was just considering that. I mean, that's a pretty strong Scotland squad that's been picked with a few surprises. What's your take on it, Johnny?
Yeah, I think it's weird to see people say, I can't believe Scotland have gone so full bore for this, because the days of treating Italy like a joke team in a rest week are long, long gone. Like, we learned that last year. Wales learned it last year. France very, very nearly learned it last year. Like, Italy are not a walkover team anymore. You have to put out a team capable of beating people to beat Italy. So I was expecting a pretty strong team. It's pretty much the team that I expected. Obviously, Staff getting the shout at 12, interesting. I could kind of see the logic. That was one where I thought, there's not a great option, but there's a couple of really, really good options. Jamie Ritchie over Jack Dempsey. Craig Manson danced so hard at that he's now laid up in bed with a bad back. That was never in a million years did I see Hooker coming. I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. I've got my own opinions on that, but that's the strange one for me.
Yeah.
Well, what's your view on it, Mark? Like,
I was
jumped out.
more or less the same. I was surprised to see Dave Cherry start. I think possibly for his arrows, but I don't think he's hugely more consistent than Ashman. The other one for me is Will Hurd on the bench. I think that's maybe dare I say it, an Italy pick. Let's get. I mean, he's only 24, 25, something like that. I think bringing him in at tight head. I'm surprised not to see Darcy Ray on the bench, but yeah, and the back row thing. Richie over Dempsey surprised me, but it could just be. I was going to say it could just be strategic, but with Tooney, you genuinely never know, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Dempsey's one that he's recently just come back from a decent wee layoff. You can, I guess, understand it. Richie's started the season relatively well with Edinburgh. Townsend has often spoken to the hilarity of a lot of fans regarding picking on form, and I believe that's one of the things that's been mentioned about Dave Cherry as well, is he's in better form than Ashman. But it strikes me as such a. I think it's a concern that Scotland, having been blessed at hooker for many, many years, we've had decent options. Maybe our line out set piece kind of throwing options have not always been the best, but certainly hookers we've had a decent run. And now when we're debating Dave Cherry versus Ewan Ashman versus someone who's not even in the squads, which I'm sure is at the crux of a lot of people's hands in the ruck, we do seem to be in a pretty bad position in that area, Johnny.
Yeah, it's a concern. I mean, obviously, the back row slightly less because it's kind of a sign of the sort of embarrassment of riches that Scotland have got in the back row at the moment. That 2 years ago, dropping Jamie Ritchie would have been unthinkable, and we're like, how is Jamie Ritchie in this team over Jack Dempsey? And that's a team that's not got Andy Christie available. There's a pile of other back rowers that you could, you'd have them in that team and you wouldn't be too worried about it. Hooker, significantly more worrying. I've been quite impressed with Ashman every time I've seen him, and I cannot say that about Dave Cherry. It's a surprising one to me. I think Dylan Richardson will be a bigger loss than we might realise. But it's along with second row, it's the area that we are thinnest in, and it is a concern because the last couple of Six Nations, Scotland's line-out set piece has not been great. It's been wrecked by Ireland fairly comprehensively in recent history. They're obviously the team that we need to beat to do anything in the Six Nations. So to go into the game against Ireland next week, seemingly not knowing who our starting hooker is, would be what I would worry about. Because I don't think Dave Cherry is the starting hooker. I think you and Ashman probably thought he was. I thought he was. So I know it's Italy, and I know we've said, you've got to put out a really strong team against Italy, but you still can't afford to play your strongest team in every game. So maybe there is a bit of Turi easing people in with the Italy game being first, but I would want in positions like hooker, your starter to start the first game regardless of who it was. So if you and Ashman's the starting hooker, he should have been starting. If Dave Cherry's the starting hooker, that's a concern for me because I don't want to go into that game against Ireland without a world-class hooker and without our top second row. And, Johnny Gray and Grant Gilchrist hopefully will be an excellent second row pairing for the whole tournament. But when was the last time they played together? When was the last time Johnny Gray played for Scotland? When's the last time he operated in these line-out units? Like, we've got a game against Ireland in 9 days, and Ireland are fantastic at wrecking people's line-outs. Maybe they'll just shout at Afrikaans at us like they did to the Stormers last weekend. I don't know. But it's a real worry. Those are the positions that need to be sorted, and they need to be sorted in 9 days. So to be rotating hooker is a worry for me.
And that's the thing when you're talking about those connections. You're saying Johnny Gray, Grant Gilchrist. Yeah, last time they played for Scotland quite a few years ago. When's the last time Johnny Gray played 2 games in 9 days? That very, 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 very much an injury-prone second row. But it's about building those connections, and there's no time to waste with that. If you're having to get Johnny Gray back up to line out calling, and being a reasonable option in the line out, then it just seems crazy to mix and match just now. Mark, I'm going to come to you with a very simple statement. Tell me why Dave Cherry is a better hooker than Johnny Matthews.
I can't answer that. I'm not. Yeah, I just can't.
I know.
It's Craig made a point last week, and I rewatched the game, and I actually said on our message, and I take Craig's point that Johnny Matthews, his throwing was really poor.
Yep.
But I think he's better about the park. So swings and roundabouts, but fundamentally the hooker's main jobs are hooking the ball and throwing the ball, and you need them to do that first and foremost. I'm not convinced that Dave Cherry is substantially better than Johnny Matthews, though. I think you can make an argument for Ashman and probably for Dylan Richardson as well. But yeah, I mean, Cherry's been let go by Edinburgh as well, right?
So yeah,
Isn't that what's happening?
He's moving on at the end. He's moving on at the end of the season, but no one seems to have much information about where or why or anything.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a new situation, eh? Not knowing what's going on. Oh well.
So yeah,
it's a strange one.
Yeah.
And I think
I don't know.
you can see with Tom English is funny when, obviously I don't always agree with Tom English's statements regarding Scottish rugby. He flip-flops quite regularly, but just to see how incredulous he was about the selection and how bizarre it is, it's like, yeah, a strange one. A strange one. Let's talk about something a bit more positive though. Let's look at, from a back's perspective, Johnny. Right, that is minus
The best perspective.
minus Sione, right? That is about as full noise as Scotland could possibly go. And I think Stafford's been put in there purely from a club perspective. He has played with Hugh Jones. I think that was a really sensible pick. And I called it right when Sione went down injured. I said it would be Stafford at 12. I mean, you've got to be happy with that, and certainly the backs on the bench as well. I mean, that's an exciting Scotland.
Yeah, that is. I think you're right. That is as strong for this game as we could get. I think as we get deeper into the tournament, the best option at 12 probably is Rory Hutchinson. But then I've been on the Hutch train for a long time.
Woo-woo.
Staff and Tom Jordan are both excellent options at 12. They've both got a good relationship with Hugh Jones. We've learned in the last year that Hugh Jones plays so much better with someone who he likes and knows well and plays well with, played at 12. Like this is Hugh Jones that we've not seen since Sam Johnson. And all of these players, all of these options, with all the love and respect in the world to Sam Johnson, who I did love, are better than Sam Johnson. And like, so these are better players at 12, making Hugh Jones a better player at 13. So I don't think it really matters which of them it is. It matters that it's not Sione, probably, because he is in with a shout of being one of the best players in the world. But I think any of them will fit in absolutely fine. And I think that Scotland backline has the potential to be absolutely humming in a good way. Like humming like an engine humming, not humming like a jobby humming by the end of the tournament, because there is so much talent and so many options. I think it's going to be really exciting.
Stafford's got to step up, though. It was you pointed out, Johnny, I think he had an absolute stinker against Harlequins. When he's good, he's very good. But we can't have him having a stinker on Saturday.
I think
that is one where, although we're saying Italy are still a much better team, and like, let's be honest, there is a joke team to be playing this year where everybody's going to get rotated out. But for the for the fear of upsetting them all, I'm going to just let you make your own conclusions about who it is. Having said that, Italy are not the toughest test this year. So everyone has to play well, but this is a game where if you need to play well, this could get you in your stride. This isn't playing France or Ireland in the first week. This is a difficult game that Scotland can win if they are getting themselves into their stride. And then in 9 days' time, they're in that stride for Ireland.
Right. You basically suggesting that we've got an opportunity to get all our bad shots off in the practice range, yeah?
Let's call this the Masters Par 3, right? It's not quite a practice, but it's not the main. Somebody
want to message Rory with that so he knows the title, please. Perfect. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Like in terms of Stafford, I think his form for Glasgow has been 90% very, very good. But I think it's very noticeable when he's bad. And I don't know if that's in the nature of the position or that, he is a big leader within Glasgow. So he does take on a lot. And generally, if you're that sort of guy, when you play badly, you're taking on a lot and you're still demanding it, and it's just not working for you. And not everybody can be Finn Russell and brush it off and laugh about it. We've all seen games where players just you compound error after error, and you just look humming, to coin a Johnny phrase. I think Stafford is one of those players that when he's bad, he is bad, and you go, mate. But when he's good, I think the vast majority of the time he's a very, very solid player. And we saw that last year against Ireland. You know, he was thrown in at the deep end. And I think he was, aside from Andy Christie kind of tearing it up and ripping people apart, Stafford was our best player on that park. I thought he was outstanding. So if we can get more of that and less of the occasional blip at Glasgow, I think we've got a very good backup option in those centres. Talk to me a wee bit though, Mark, about Tom Jordan, right? So Tom's in there. He is actually what we thought Blair Kinghorn might be a few years ago. Well, some people thought Blair Kinghorn might be. Other people said he was a 15. Tom Jordan's in there as a 10, 12, 13, 15. Could probably play in the wing if he so desired. And I wouldn't put it past him playing hooker as well, because he is solid. Is he now the backup 10 for Scotland? Is this a legitimate backup 10 pick?
I think so. I think that's what he's in there for. I think looking at the relative merits, I think if there was an injury to Finn, and please no, touching everything wouldn't have got around me. If there was an injury to Finn, I think we'd be more likely to see Tom Jordan step into the 10 slot and keep Kinghorn at 15, because I think Kinghorn is by some degree our best 15. And I think even though we have some good back three options, I think if we put Blair in at 10, you're then playing two players out of position, not just one. You know?
Yeah, and you're weakening two positions as well.
That, you know? Sorry, John.
A bit of deja vu there, Johnny.
You're not only moving people out of positions, you're weakening two positions.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I meant.
You're taking your best 15 and you're moving him away. So
yes,
I understand the logic, but he is by far and away, like you say, he is by far and away the best 15. So we do what we can to keep him at 15. I would say, even if Tom Jordan was a slightly worse 10 than Blair Kinghorn, which he's not, but even in that circumstance, I'd say keep Tom Jordan at 15 and keep Blair at 15, because you don't take your best 15 and move him to 10 to then play your second best 10 and your second best 15. Keep your best 15, play your third best 10. Blair stays at 15 no matter what happens, I would say.
Yeah. So I think the short answer to your question, John, is yes. I think Tom Jordan is our backup 10. Yeah.
And to think about that as a development, Johnny, from, you know, we were both on the podcast when kind of Tom Jordan came through at Glasgow, and I remember me and Ian Hay having a conversation quite early doors about how this boy from the Ayrshire Bulls, this Kiwi lad from the Bulls, was an absolute shocker and would be lucky to get 5 Glasgow caps. It does just show sometimes we have to be patient with players, and maybe it's about allowing players to grow into the shirt. You know, we saw it famously with Duncan Taylor many years ago. He was honking for his first 2 caps. Chris Harris is another. I seem to just be picking centres, but TJ has kind of looked manner born in that shirt and has taken to it. But it does show professional rugby is not always as cut and dry as, you know, your performance on that day.
Yeah, it's not a linear progression for anyone unless you're in the Leinster Academy, basically. Like, everyone has their own route. Yeah. Everyone comes to it their own way. Everyone picks things up differently. And you're right, like, there's no two ways about it. Tom Jordan was a slow starter at Glasgow. Yeah. And then he got to be a really, really good player at Glasgow. And then it got to the point where we were saying, maybe you want to have a look about when he's going to be eligible to play for Scotland. And then he was in the Scotland squad for the Autumn Nations. And I think all of us have said, like, oh, yeah, it'll be worth having a look because he's been playing really well for Glasgow. And then by the end of the Autumn Nations, we're like, Jesus, where has this come from? Because he just stepped onto the field at Murrayfield and was like, oh, well, I'm an international player now.
Yeah.
Which
I'm playing
doesn't happen for everyone. Yeah. So I think he's fixed for a very big tournament, I think. Which is annoying because I said my dark horse was Kyle Rowe, and it doesn't seem like he's going to get much chance with Tom Jordan around.
Well, I think given how Kyle Rowe has performed over the last wee while, I wouldn't, and given some of the injury concerns Scotland have had coming into the tournament, let's not be so certain of that. Kyle Rowe may still have a very important role to play in that Scotland team this tournament. And let's move back to the forwards, like back to the future style, back to the forwards. A couple of interesting decisions on the bench there, Mark, as well. Obviously, we've talked about Hooker, and we'll not do that to death. I'm sure there's plenty more to come on Patreon for that. Rory Sutherland is another player who came to Glasgow, and I'll be honest, I've been very vocal in my criticism. I thought he had started very slowly at Glasgow. Maybe has looked certainly better in the last wee while, but this is going to sound really harsh. I don't mean it to. Is Sutherland there on the merits of? Is he dining out on previous performances with Scotland, or is it just a lack of options, or should Jamie Batty be in there? And you know my view on that, but we'll not touch on that.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. I think Batty very much had the bench shirt at Loosehead. So I'm not quite sure what's happened. I know Franco said last week that Batty was available, so I'd kind of figured that Suz would be on the bench this week.
Yep.
I mean, Rory Sutherland, he has been getting onto better and better form, and I wonder if, I mean, he got kind of kicked around a wee bit from pillar to post, various clubs and all that, and I wonder if he's just beginning to settle, because when he was playing at his best, he was one of the best looseheads in the UK.
Yeah.
And maybe he's just getting that back. Remains to be seen, of course. But I like Suz as a player. I think he's tenacious. He's aggressive. I don't know what weight he is. I always feel he's a bit lighter than some of our other loosehead options, but I would have to check that. That's just from watching him.
Just
but
a visual look.
yeah, absolutely. It could be that he's just fitter, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not surprised. I honestly, I'm at the stage now I could have flipped a coin between the two of them, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and that's great, Johnny, to be in that position where, you know, most people are, those positions are kind of up for grabs, and we actually have depth. We're not in a Daryl Marfo situation here where, you know, we're calling up just anybody that is Scots qualified who could maybe get a game on the bench. We have genuine. No, Sutherland's a British and Irish lion. Let's not forget he's a massive pedigree there. So we're in a great position in that sense, aren't we?
First things first, you keep the name of the All Black Slayer Daryl Marfo out of your damn mouth, because he is a hero, and I will not have anything else said about it. It's brilliant. Like, and I love Jamie Batty. Jamie Batty's performances for Glasgow have been huge for the last couple of years. I think Mark's right. I think he was pretty much stuck on for the bench loosehead shirt. I also love Rory Sutherland, and Rory Sutherland is, like you said, a test lion, and was at quite a young age. Has had a couple of really serious injuries. Terrible luck with clubs, because he was also at Worcester with Duhan when that all went down. Just has been desperately unlucky, and is a brilliant player when he's fit and gets a run of games and can get into a team. He's a fantastic player. I wish we had anything like that kind of option at tight head, because the loosehead stock is amazing for Scotland, and the tight head is ropey at best.
Yeah. I mean that's fair. I think the fact, I'm glad that Darcy Ray is coming back into the conversation, not because I rate Darcy Ray in the slightest, but because it might mean the end of the discussion around Javan Sebastian, who I have regularly pillared on this podcast as being absolute dug. But
I hope that we go full Cam Hanekom, and I hope that we bring him into the squad specifically for the joke game against that clown car of a Wales team, so that we can keep him Scottish for another 3 years, because they might actually want him And I think we
It's
should bring him
brilliant.
in, do what South Africa did with Cam Hannigan, bring him off the bench for 5 minutes, just be like, he's Scottish for another 3 years, and then just send him off again.
Yeah, I think, and that possibly brings me quite nicely onto let's discuss. Right, what's the outcome? This weekend, Italy have put out a very decent side. Looks like they've got all their top players in there. Looks dangerous. Jonny, are we happy just to take 4 points, squeak it, and move on?
No, I'd be happy with not our best performance, but we want to win convincingly at home. We want to score 4 tries. We want this back line that we've talked up even without Sione to get themselves into a high gear and get them going. I mean, realistically, I reckon Scotland have got as much chance of winning 5 games as they have of winning 2 games this year. Like, anything could happen. But we need to start this weekend looking like we are there to actually be in the conversation. Because every single year it's like, oh, this could be it for Scotland. This could be the year, and we're all doom and gloom now without Sione. But this tournament could be over before it starts, unless Scotland look really convincing on Saturday afternoon.
And it could be over before it starts, even with a win.
Yeah.
That's the problem. A narrow win with, a couple of tries or whatever, and nobody's talking about Scotland again.
It goes back to what I always say regarding the Italian club sides, and I know I curse it and Jonny shouts at me every time with it, but it's not. I'm not saying they're bad teams. I'm saying it's the mentality. It's always about the mentality. If you believe you want to win these tournaments, you believe you want to be a champion, you need to believe that you should be putting these teams away and putting them away with bonus points at home in particular. You know.
To that note, I don't think Glasgow would have gone to La Rochelle in the groups of the Champions Cup and beaten them. And Benetton did. Italy are not joke around, let's see what happens team anymore. That Benetton team is gluing and always consistently in games, apart from when they got spanked by the Ospreys at the weekend, because they've got 23 players in that Italy team.
That's the thing. It's
underestimate them at your peril. And when it comes down to the psychological side, I would say I'd be seriously worried that Italy are above Scotland in the ability to grind out a win and dig themselves out of a hole stakes. If we get into a fight in the gutter with Italy and it's still in the balance in the last 5-10 minutes, I'd put my money on them and not Scotland. Like, Scotland need to come out and put them away early.
I agree. I think if I were coaching Italy, I would be saying to them, if we're still in it with 20 minutes to play, it's our game.
Yeah.
And I think Scotland need to remember that and make sure they are nowhere near in it with 15-20 to play.
Yeah. So, predictions then, are we thinking a bonus point victory for Scotland? Mark, what's your take? What's the outcome?
So I'm going to say it depends. Sit on the fence as usual. I think it'll go one of two ways. I think we will absolutely cuff them, or it'll be a nail biter, 3 points by the end. But I think we'll win. Okay,
Jonny.
36-21 Scotland.
36-21. Okay, so a good victory, solid, and a bonus point. That'll do nicely. Yeah. Right, we've got 4 minutes left before we are cutting this off and moving over to our Patreon, because I am on a tight 40. Jonny, give me one word that summarises each of the other Six Nations contenders this year. Just one word for each of them. Obviously, Wales, you knock yourself out.
Ireland, mechanical. France, terrifying. England, mysterious. Italy, improving. Wales, It's ha 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 a word. Does that count?
I genuinely thought you would go bin fire, but you know, ha 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 ha, work. Mark, same question, mate.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, Ireland brutal.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
France magical. England unknown. Italy surprising, and Wales bobbins.
Puppets. Oh, that is manna for an old podcaster's soul. That's bringing back some of the old classics. Yeah. So thank you very much for that, guys, and thanks for appreciate you. I put you on the spot with that, but you've done remarkably well with that. So brilliant. Yeah, we are fast finishing up. So yeah, fingers crossed for a good victory for Scotland this weekend, and we'll see how the Six Nations kicks off. We are going to head over to our Patreon now. We're going to have a wee chat about the Netflix Full Contact Season 2, which has been the talk of the group chat and the talk of the rugby circles. Oh, Marcus Smith, how I have missed your humble demeanour, young man. But we will be back. We'll be back next week, obviously, to review Scotland, Italy, preview Scotland, Ireland. What's on? It is the Six Nations. We will be with you as much as we can be. But thank you to everyone who's joined us for this. If you're coming to join us on Patreon, we'll see you over there. But for now, it is good night from me and good night from Jonny and Mark.
Cheers, folks.
Bye all. John, you did the thing. The Manson special.